Before we start today's very special episode, we want to announce that we have merch. We are starting off with two designs. The first is a college lettering style t-shirt and hoodie inspired by our upcoming live recording at Wesleyan University. The second is our podcast logo, also on a t-shirt and hoodie.
And 10% of the profits of all our merchandise goes to our permanent campaign, How You Make a Difference, supporting congenital heart disease research, helping kids like my own son. So thank you all for that.
And kids, let me tell you the incredible story of how we met our friends at Amplifier, who are partnering with us to get this fantastic How We Made Your Mother merch to you while raising money for this great cause. Yes, Amplifier is helping us do something good by offering Whimsium fans something great. So if you're a business with big orders to fulfill and not just print-on-demand items, but really anything, yellow umbrella, blue French horn, a pineapple, anything, Amplifier is there to help growing consumer brands and influencers create a unique experience for their customers during the fulfillment process. The link to their site is in our show notes, and if you name drop How We Made Your Mother, you'll get special pricing for your emerging brands program. Future you will thank past you for choosing Amplifier.
To get your Whimsium merch, please go to howyoumade.yourmother.com and click on store, where you'll be taken to our Shopify store, or you can go directly to www.howyougetyourmerch.com.
And now, let's get started.
My name is Brianna, and I'm from Naples, Florida.
Hi, I'm Harrison, and I'm from the United Kingdom.
I'm from Brazil.
And I'm from Colombia.
Hi, I'm Marika from the Netherlands.
And I'm from Iowa,
Rhode Island,
Connecticut,
From Dallas, Texas.
Portland, Oregon.
I am from Bulgaria.
From India.
I'm from Chile.
And I'm from Estonia.
This is Selma from Bosnia and Herzegovina.
From Australia.
Hi, here's Maya from Poland.
I'm Charlotte from England, and Robin Scherbatsky is my favourite fictional character of all time.
And she's generally my favourite character in television history.
Absolutely my favorite character of all time.
Robin Scherbatsky means everything to me.
To me, Robin Scherbatsky means strength and confidence.
Strong, independent, and didn't follow the usual expectations of what a woman should be like.
Both a Canadian pop star and gun-toting, cigar-smoking New Yorker.
Robbie means courage. She's talent. She's amazing.
She represents strength, courage, and ambition.
Such a badass.
She stays focused on her goals and knows what she wants out of life.
What she means the most is that you can be hilarious and hella hot.
Why I love Robin? Because Robin is Robin.
Robin does not need anyone, and she likes having her own space, her own dessert.
She's strong enough to walk away when it's right for her.
Robin reminds me that I can be vulnerable and strong at the same time, that I can love others but also love myself.
I love how she can hold her friends accountable and can also step aside and let them figure it out for themselves.
Seeing a woman on TV who wasn't afraid to be different made me feel like I wasn't alone.
I've gone through some really rough times in my life being autistic, but Robin has been the one shining light that guided me through.
I would love to take a second to appreciate how Cobie Smulders is such an incredible actress.
I also just love Cobie Smulders so much.
I met her once, and she said I was an artist. And I wanted to thank her for saying that, because I really needed to hear it.
Her ability to make me laugh, smile, or even cry through her amazing acting as Robin is one of the biggest constants in my life.
I honestly wish I could meet her and tell her thank you for making this character that made me feel like you're gonna fall down a lot, but don't give up. You know what I mean?
I'm alone. What a pity I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of How We Made Your Mother. I'm Josh Radner. I am joined, as ever, by my friend Craig Thomas.
Hello, Josh. Honored to be here. Oh, my God.
So we're discussing this TV show that we made together for many, many years. It was called How I Met Your Mother. It ran from 2005 to 2014. We often say we're having a very special episode of How We Made Your Mother, but this week, it is a special, extra special episode because we are joined by the one and only Cobie Smulders. Hi, Cobes. Hi, Cubs. Hi,
you guys.
So good to see you.
Hello, everyone listening.
The best.
Oh, hi, guys. I'm so happy to be
The
here.
best of the best. We're so
Just
happy
happy to hang out and
Yeah.
chat with you guys.
So we just heard
God.
the compilation of Robin and Cobie loving voices from all over the world. It's the first time we heard it, but I'm so curious, like, how was that for you to hear all that love coming at you?
I am
not great with compliments.
There wasn't hell on earth.
No,
It was horrible.
Hell on earth. I think it's like, I mean, it's so, first of all, it's so lovely. And it's I feel like what you guys have really been discussing on this podcast thus far, and what I can also sort of speak to is like the love of this show, the love that people have for these characters, and what an amazing thing to be a part of the show that brought people so much joy and so much entertainment, and also like a sort of a way to funnel what they're going through themselves. And it's wild, and it's a wonderful legacy to be a part of. So anytime I, get a compliment, I kind of store it in that How I Met Your Mother bank, in terms of like what every member of our cast, crew, writers, producers, we all made together. I just feel it's such a wonderful, it's a gift that keeps on giving. And I'm so lucky to be the recipient of it.
Well, let me ask you, one of the things we're interrogating on the show is just like why How I Met Your Mother stuck around, why it's minting new fans every year, why people watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it, what the fervor is and the devotion to the show and the characters, what that's really about. Like, has it shocked you, the kind of long tail of the show? Because sometimes you'll do something and it kind of just, it's nice when it's on, and then it kind of goes away. It fades into kind of the pop culture memory bank. But this one just feels very alive for people. Do you feel that in your own life, like when people approach you and talk to you and want to talk about the show? And also, has it surprised you how long it's stuck around?
Yeah, it's certainly been a surprise. I think there are different layers that happen, right? There are people who are our age who are like, I remember being in my 20s watching this show. And you're like, yeah, same. And it feels very like relatable. And then I'll meet somebody who's like 15. And I'm like, you were not
a thing. You were not a person
alive.
then.
You were not.
Did not exist.
You were not around. And so I find that really interesting, where it's multi-generational. And I think that, I don't know what the secret sauce is that you and Carter did, Craig. I mean, I think it's like, first of all, we got to do it for 9 years. So we had so much time to make people really know these characters, to play out so many different storylines. And like, I just don't feel like that's something people are able to do on television anymore. We were able to sort of practice and find and really hone in who these characters were, and the world that they were in, which we were so lucky to do. But I find that the younger generation really fascinating, because, and I talk to them sometimes. I talk to the kids. I can call them kids because they're, we're
the
there.
Kids doesn't make you sound old at all.
I
say that. Kids, we're Bob Saget now. We are now officially future Ted. Like, we speak like that.
I know, right? When these kids come up to me and they say, I just watched the whole series this weekend or something really wild, and I'm like, it must be so strange because dating has changed so much, and I'm like, what is that like to watch these characters, leave messages on an answering machine, and then you have to like wait till you get home to like check the answering machine, and then hope that like, oh, I'm 10 minutes late because I just got this message at this time, and meet them in the bar. Like, I think that there's something obviously more romantic in that world of meeting people, but they seem to really connect to it and kind of love it, and it doesn't feel strange to them, but it's not how they do it. And I do think that generally romantics do love the show. I think that is sort of a common thread. People who really believe in love and romance and grand gestures, and really wanting to find somebody special to spend their whole life with. Like, I do find that is a through line, which is obviously very apparent in our show. But yeah, I think it hits people in different ways, and I think that the characters you guys created really filled so many different areas of interest for people. So there was always somebody that they could latch onto and have a favorite of.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back.
Well, it's that time again. It's time for the continuing adventures of Doug switches his cell phone plan to Mint Mobile. Doug, what's the latest? What's going on with you and Mint Mobile?
Josh, I'm so sorry that I missed you at your show, but we came. My wife and I came.
You were there.
I was there. We had to come home because our babysitter had to leave.
Sure.
How did I know?
It wasn't that you were embarrassed about my performance and couldn't face me.
No, we were really enjoying it. And my wife had no cell coverage on our family plan with the big carrier.
Oh.
My phone has Mint Mobile now, and our babysitter was able to call and be like, guys, I need you to come back.
Right.
Wow. For shame, big carrier. For shame.
Yeah, my wife, who is my son's mother, didn't know he needed help, and she's paying more. Whereas I did, and I'm paying less.
You're winning the marriage, Doug. You're winning.
You are. You were
in one way.
You were the responsible parent care of Mint Mobile.
So we know at least at the Troubadour on Santa Monica Boulevard, Mint Mobile is the carrier. That's the one you want. If you're out leaving your kid at home.
Yeah, if you want to know if your kid is okay or not. Yeah.
That seems important.
So to parents at the Troubadour, this is Mint Mobile's your guy. It's a very specific demo, but a huge one, surprisingly huge. No, you need to be in contact with your babysitter who suddenly has to leave. You need to, and Mint Mobile let you be in that contact. As a parent, I relate. I feel very stressed out even contemplating not being able to hear that information.
If you want to rock and roll all night and party every day and have children, this is the carrier
Mint
for you.
Mobile. That's
Mint
the
Mobile.
carrier for you?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this off the top of my head now, too. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/yourmother. That's mintmobile.com/yourmother.
Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5-gigabyte plan required, equivalent to only $15 per month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Craig, can you feel it?
I can feel it. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, but you can feel it. Summer's approaching. Can you feel summer on its way?
Oh my God, it's so here. It's almost here. It's basically already here.
It's almost time for you to exodus out of here and get to your summer spot.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I have become a migrating bird. My family and I wanted to buy a place up in the Berkshires on a lake. And we went and saw a beautiful place, and we fell in love with this house, and we bought this house. It's on a lake in the country, in the woods, and it's just like, it's our happy place. And that's where we spend the summers now. And we were up there like 3 months. We're up there.
And it just sits there when you're not there. And you're just losing money every single day.
Wait a second.
You could be hosting on Airbnb.
You just trapped me. You made me walk right into that. I usually do that to you, and you've turned it around on me judo style. But yes, I'm letting it just go to waste. I'm doing nothing with the house. I'm just going to be brutally honest.
Let me tell you this. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
And now, back to the show.
I'm curious to ask you something, Cobie, which is, in our first episode of this podcast, we sort of talked about this from Josh's perspective, but what it was like for you to kind of like meet that character on the page before you met me or Carter or Pam or anything else. Like, you see this on the page, you know you're going to come and audition for it. Remember our casting director, Megan Brandman, was like, this is somebody really interesting. This is somebody you're going to take really seriously for this role. And I give her a lot of credit, Megan, for really perking us up to like, pay attention here. This is somebody special. You were very young. You had not done any comedy, I don't think, right? You had been on some hour shows. Well, I'm just curious to hear your perspective of like finding that script, coming in that audition, meeting that character, meeting us, and kind of what that felt like from your perspective. We talked about that with Josh, where he came in, he remembered The Office, he came in and auditioned at, which I think it was the same one you came in. But what do you remember of that? Paint us a little word picture there.
Yeah, let's go back. So I was, and still am, very Canadian.
I thought you were going to say I'm still 23.
Hell yeah.
I mean, no, so I was living in Canada, and we would do this sort of Canadian migration every year because there was a pilot season. And so I worked in restaurants all year, and I saved up money, and then I drove my Volkswagen Jetta. Sadie, may she rest in peace.
Sadie,
lady.
I never knew this. See, we're breaking news here. Sadie,
that's what they want today. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to know my first car.
You can't imagine the amount of viewer mail we've gotten about this, so we're thrilled.
I bet it's mostly that I've answered the tough questions.
Thanks for being with us, Cobie. This was so wonderful.
All right, Cobie,
great,
this
you guys.
is great.
It's so nice to see everyone. No, me and Sadie lady, we drove down, and I lived with two of my best friends in Venice when it was not nice, Venice, Abbot Kinney when it was not fancy. And we just auditioned like crazy. You would do if you were lucky, you would get multiple auditions a week, a day. And it was kind of madness. It was kind of like this fever dream of getting 8 pages of sides to memorize for the next day, and just hoping that something would click. And then networks were making multiple pilots every year, so you would kind of go like, okay, I'll get a pilot maybe, and then I'll at least and for me, being a Canadian, being an immigrant, I was like, please God, get me a job down here so I can stay. So I came down, I drove down, and I was auditioning for multiple pilots, and I think I was set to test for something, which I can't remember, but I do think that Mark Paul Glosser, who played Zach Morris, was in this other pilot.
Yeah.
So I was really excited because I was very much in love with him for a majority of my teenage life.
Wait, a pilot against at the same time as the How Much Mother pilot season?
Before I had even met you, I had auditioned for this Zach Morris. We're not going to call him that, but I'm sorry, that's like Mark. Okay, we'll call him Mark by his actual name. Mark, and to play his sister, and I was like, this is confusing because I'm very much in love with. I spent a majority of my teen years very much in love with this human.
Oh my God!
So I was set. They were doing sort of, I think, Josh, you sort of spoke to everybody about the testing process, so I won't bore everybody with like Network Studio and all that stuff. But I was set to test with him, and then got a call from about Megan and stuff, and went in and read, and then I said, I'm testing for this other show, and then I think like that she brought me in like the next day to meet with you guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever knew this.
Yeah, it was like,
I'm feeling this weird emotion. Like I'm slightly jealous of Mark Paul Goss.
We all are, to be honest.
But I'm like
everyone is.
I'm like, hey, get away from Cobie. She's going to be our Robin. I'm like having a whole time travel thing.
No, yeah. So she sort of fast tracked me, and she was like, okay, well, come in tomorrow and you can meet Carter and Craig. And I was like, great. And so I met you guys and immediately, liked you, felt like this is really funny. But as you had said, Craig, I had never done a comedy. I'd done, sort of hour-long dramas mostly up in Canada. And so I was not sure if I was funny. I mean, I think I could make, friends and family laugh, but it was a different rhythm, and it was a different sort of demand. And so I tried my best, and I guess I fooled you. I fooled you, and
only for 9 years though. So you really didn't do a great job. I don't know when you're going to pull the plug on it because it's still working. I still think you're funny.
Yeah, and then it was sort of a similar process. I remember meeting Josh. We were lucky enough to do the studio network test together, and it felt very lovely and very easy, and it was I think probably the best version of that process can be. I felt when I read the script for the first time, I fell in love. I mean, Robin isn't in the pilot very much. If I'm like, she's sort of, it's more about this group of people. And I remember being like, oh gosh, I hope I can stay and become a part of this group.
Yeah.
But I thought she was, and even in the opening, people
so
saying
funny.
like, she's so confident. And I'm like, and I didn't feel like that at all. So I was like very much acting.
Well, what's funny is like the plot of the first 2 episodes of How I Met Your Mother is this young woman from Canada hopes she can come to America and become part of this friend group. And you actually felt exactly the way that was what the character felt and what you felt.
But to be fair, she was not Canadian yet. You made her Canadian.
No, it's true. We didn't.
Midway through.
We made her Canadian in honor of you. That's true.
I do sometimes think that when you get a role that is kind of like a role that kind of becomes iconic, like our roles all became, there is something about that. It feels bigger than just, oh, you were right for the part. Like it feels like your DNA was right for the part. Like there's a mystical thing that happens. And even as Craig lays it out, it's like, yeah, you were acting, you were doing these things, but you were also like, where you were in your life on the earth at that moment was exactly what was required for the show. And where I was in my life thing was exactly what was needed in the show. So it's almost like, yes, acting's hard, landing jokes is challenging and all that. You're technically doing things, but there's also something where you're like, you can't actually screw it up. If you're that right for the role, you're the person, And
you were, and that's the thing. You were. We never wanted anybody else for the part. Once we saw you, it was just, how do we convince a network that is going to say, what else has she done in terms of comedy? What's her reel? Where are all her clips? And we had to make the point. In this show, it's a character meeting this woman out of nowhere. And wouldn't it be nice for America to also be meeting this woman they've never seen on other sitcoms? She hasn't done 12 other sitcoms. This is her first one, and that's a good thing. And they got it, to their credit. The network in the studio, they got that. That's Ted. Ted was meeting her in that moment across the bar, and so was America. And it felt meant to be. It really did.
I think it's also, I hear you, Josh, but I think it's also like the credit goes to you and Carter as well. And also, I will say Pam Fryman. Like, there was this sort of very safe environment.
Oh, yeah.
The credit also would go to the studio, CBS and Fox, because they didn't notice to death. So when we're taping and when we're recording all these things, first of all, you're surrounded by amazing actors. You have Pam Fryman, who's like mother to, for me, and I think a lot of other people on that set would say that as well. It created this, especially for someone like me who was quite terrified and really sort of working with these other actors who were so funny and so talented and had done so much more than I had. I felt a lot of pressure, and it was this wonderful environment to step into, to be like, yeah, you can totally bomb, and then we'll just do another take, and then it'll get better, And so I felt very lucky to step into that world, and being held by that group of people in such a wonderful way.
Yeah. Hey, Cobie, this is just a memory I'm having. Do you remember we had been cast, you and I don't know that anyone else had been cast at that point. Maybe Neil had been cast. But you and I grabbed dinner at the Authentic Cafe, which was like a block from my apartment, this Mexican restaurant. And we were kind of celebrating that we were about to do this show, this pilot together. But you had just met Taryn, right? Like, you were right about, it was like, it's fascinating to me that these two very much life-defining events, meeting your future husband and getting cast on this show, which you would do for nearly a decade, those were a busy couple months for you, right? I mean, your life really changed quite a bit. Yeah.
And I was 22. I was very young. And but Taryn and I met, I think maybe the week before we started shooting, something like that. Yeah. And he was also in pilot season 2. So there was this weird, like, is this going to go? Is that going to go? Kind of energy. But
God,
yeah.
Taryn's glad you didn't get the Zach Morris show either.
He never could have married you. You would have been unavailable. Having fake incest with Zach Morris.
Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. I guess that show didn't go. I don't even know what it was, but I just remember that.
I'm kind of picturing your energy with him. Had you been cast in that, would be very much like the James Vanderbeek episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. By the way, I want to point out, I did not forget the robot. I just we're just sitting here. I just wanted to make sure.
As soon as you came on, I saw it. and I started freaking out internally. But I didn't want it to be the first thing that I started talking about. I felt like we had to build up to it, and I'm glad that we're here now because I've been waiting for 20 minutes to put it out to you. I feel like it was a strong thing
I just wanted you to know. It's a tribute to you.
He's as handsome as ever, that little devil. That little devil.
He
over
says
your shoulder.
hi. He says hi. He dressed up for you. I was wondering about Cobie too, like in the opening where we heard those amazing comments about the love for you and the love for Robin that you've very deftly dodged and compartmentalized somehow not to take any of it as a compliment for you.
We're going back to it now, or
I'm going to insist that you take some of it. I mean, I'm bringing you back.
If you don't cry today, we're going to consider this a failure.
Okay, cool.
I was going to say that I literally
let's get into each one individually.
I started to cry a little bit during that, and I don't know where you were during that, but like it's they were amazing, and I hope you take that in because there's the love for you and Robin. It's so amazing. Hearing that one comment where they talked about how Robin was like, she's the gun-toting, this, and the list of, Canadian and gun-toting, all this list. All of these were things we didn't know when we met you about Robin, right?
Yeah, to be clear, I don't own a gun, though. I'm very anti.
That is Robin. Yes, I know.
Personal.
We can debate the complexity of that character trait later. No, but like, kind of a question to both you and Josh from me. This is always interesting to me. Like, these characters didn't arrive fully formed on the page. They arrived, we all met them together. And then this journey of getting to do 9 seasons is such a gift creatively for writers and actors. And it's such a collaboration, I think, between writers and actors. You guys bring these energies to it and some of yourselves to it, you being Canadian, informed Robin being Canadian. What is it like as an actor to sort of start with one thing and then kind of find all these other things? Or you get a script one day and you go, oh, I guess there's this other side to Robin. I have to incorporate that in. And some of it's coming from how we, the writers, are seeing you. We're seeing what you do. What is that collaboration or that like discovery like over seasons? Because Robin, we find out a lot more about Robin. We did not know Robin was a pop star with this robot behind me in season 1. We did not know Robin had this incredibly complicated relationship with her father. But over time, we got to dig into like, why is Robin Robin? What is that like for you as an actor to play that and sort of find those things and incorporate those as you go along?
It's wonderful. It's such a wonderful thing. And I think it's sort of an easing into the character. And we had such an amazing writer's room. And they were so talented, so funny, so intuitive. And I became very good friends with a lot of those writers. Gloria Calderon-Kellett is one of my best friends to this day. And I think I became friends with a lot of them, and then for better or worse, they would take some of my tics, like the thing, I think is something I would do, and they added that. I also think there was a couple jabs at it's literally the worst thing I've ever heard.
Did we?
That was the thing that I would do in my 20s, I guess.
I forgot that those were those us taking your things? I guess they were. Did we ask you permission, or did you just get it on the page? You'd be like, look at these motherfuckers.
No, you just stole it straight on, just started digging. So I guess those late nights at the bar on the set, really that's when they hone their best material. But
it's so important.
It's so important. And
that connection.
It's such a gift because like you don't, again, speaking to doing something for 9 years, doing a project that's that long running, and also something if we're talking comparatively of the shows of that time, I feel like what How I Met Your Mother did and what you guys did was constantly give us new and exciting stories to do. And speaking solely about the character of Robin, like she was on so many different news stations. She had so many love interests. Like she dated so many people. And then I remember when you presented me with the Robin Sparkles thing. And even before that, when you're like, we're thinking about making Robin a Canadian. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And Carter said, we're thinking of making her Canadian because we think it's exotic. And I thought to myself, and I have never been called
exotic
as exotic in my life. And so
Oh
I
my
found that
God.
really funny. And I think you guys gave me one speech that was talking about, universal health care, our school systems,
Yeah.
our anti-gun, legislation. And then it was
Yeah.
one speech. It was maybe 11. I see it in my mind. It was like 11 because I was so excited to say it. I was like, because we Canadians
I know
love,
exactly what you're
put
talking
that
about.
freaking flag down at any.
Yeah. I think we said we're going to be doing this all the time in Canada to show how great Canada is.
How great my country is. I cannot wait. I have so much national pride. I was so excited, and I got one speech, and the rest were like my accent jokes,
Mountie jokes,
like maple syrup jokes, lover of hockey jokes,
the donuts.
And I will say, thank goodness you had Chuck Tatham on your writing staff.
Oh yeah, Canadian specialist writer. Yeah, writing the real details. Yeah,
who was responsible
and often
for
like conferring with you on how to get that right.
Well,
and Susie Greenberg was Canadian. Our producer, Susie Greenberg. We had a lot of great
Right.
Canadians on
We're
that show.
around. We might be sneaky, but we're around.
Around and have around. You're very exotic. I still don't understand
exotic,
you all.
and we are here.
But it was so much love for Canada in that room. I swear to God, and I love that Canada loves this show. And I would not have had it any other way.
Canadians can take a punch. Really, the Canadians take a punch.
Oh, they're the best sense of humor ever. Yeah.
One thing that Craig has mentioned a few times is that every other character was tangentially based on someone. Ted on Carter and Marshall and Lily on Craig and Rebecca. And Robin was the character they just kind of imagined out of whole cloth. And it feels to me like you create a pilot and you're like, I hope this costume fits an actor. But like, as the show went on, especially first season, it almost felt like they were a tailor and they were like tailoring it to you. So they start, this is what I try to explain to people in network TV, and Greg Malin's told me this, like, it's really important for the writers to get to know the actors because you start pulling little things from their life and you start kind of giving them to the character. Now, for me, that got a little annoying / confusing because I was like, wait, I love books and crossword puzzles. And now you're taking that from me and making fun of it. And now when I do read books or do crossword puzzles, it looks like I'm the character when in fact I predated that, but I think there's something, could you feel the
That's so funny.
snugness of the suit getting more tailored for you in a way that like liberated you to feel like you weren't playing someone's idea of someone, but you were actually inhabiting it more? Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. And I felt that too. And again, for me personally, because comedy was sort of a new area for me to be working in, I felt grateful to it because I thought, they're noticing that this is what I'm good at and they're going to write towards that. So I'm not going to have to really like learn on the fly so much. It became much more familiar. And I do get asked that a lot, I feel, when doing, or certainly maybe back in the day when we were doing more press about the show. It's like, how are you similar to Robin? And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of blending right now. Like it's a hard, now separating the self from the character is becoming more challenging because it's becoming so much more intimate. We're all becoming so much more intimate. And even the storylines have like started becoming, and I think you've talked about that, Craig, about like we were all in this. And I think Courtney, I've been listening. I listened to Courtney's too, which was so nice to hear Courtney's voice. I was a little younger, but because I was in this very serious relationship, which started very early in my life, we were all sort of in this, we're going through the same things too. So it was not just sort of the quirks and the characteristics that the writers were sort of attaching us to. But it was also just the life stories. It was also just so relatable. And so it just felt very familiar.
I think that was huge for the show because there's always this thing of like, why did this one work? There were a lot of shows during and after Friends that tried to be the New York, here's another group of people in New York dating. And it was really hard to get one of those to stick and work and be distinctive and be its own thing. I like to think that some of it was the writing, but I do think that what you guys brought to it, in addition to being unbelievably talented, having so much heart and soul, the two of you having this immediate on-screen chemistry, both of you being so funny and authentic. See, it's still there. It's still there. Or there's,
of course, this is me and Cobie. I blow her kisses and she goes, like she always worked bluer than me, Cobie Smulders, always.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you in New York City.
And now, commercials.
Hey Craig, how those hip Vessi shoes treating you?
I love these shoes. I have no problem saying it. I don't care who knows. Vessi, one of our wonderful sponsors, was very kind to send us a couple really cool things. They sent us they sent us really cool raincoats and really cool shoes. And I am wearing these shoes exclusively on my dog walks. I have my dog Sally and I have our morning routine. I walk my daughter to school, then with the dog, and then I walk the dog over on the Hudson River. It's a very New York scene. And these shoes are so comfortable. They slip on so quick. It's early in the morning. I'm exhausted. I'm barely making sense. I just slip those shoes on and I go. It's been rainy here this week in New York. They are waterproof. They slip on. They're very comfortable. They're breathable. I love them.
You getting a lot of head turns from stylish New Yorkers who are like, where'd you get those shoes?
I'll tell you the one person I did get a head turn from. My daughter, who's 9 and has a cool sense of style and never compliments anything I wear, but sometimes insults things I wear, this time looked at the Vessis and she went, "Hey, Dad, cool shoes." This is a true story. That's really
gotta
happened.
feel... What's Tina Fey's line about like having a kid as like an office crush or something? You're like, they talked to me today.
They talked to me. They said something sort of nice to me today.
Yeah. Well, it's also it's been rainy here on and off. I'm getting a lot of mileage out of that raincoat they sent. It's fantastic, keeping me dry, keeping me warm. I love it.
It's like the perfect heft too, as it's it's like not too hot, not too cold. Like it's
That's
just
right.
it's perfect for springtime in New York. Yeah, they sent us some great stuff. Thank you, Vessi.
Thank you, Vessi.
As our thank you, we're going to say this. Make every day a little easier. Visit vessi.com/yourmother. Now, for 15% off your first pair at checkout, start exploring with confidence. Embrace every journey, rain or shine, with Vessi.
Hey, Craig.
Yeah, Josh.
You know what smells good?
Lots of things, but you're going to name a specific one.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Spring.
Spring.
Yes.
You blew my mind. I thought it's a whole season that you named. It does smell good.
But do you know what smells bad?
Okay. You tricked me once, so now I'm not going to even try to guess. What smells bad?
Kitty litter.
Well, the wrong kind of kitty litter does. I think that's where you're headed with this.
Yeah.
Most kitty litter doesn't smell good.
But what would one do if one loves the smell of spring, but the smell of spring is being overtaken by the bad smell of kitty litter? What is a person to do?
I'm so glad you asked, because I have the answer. There's a fix for that. Pretty litter. The answer is pretty litter. I'm just going to say the answer to your question is pretty litter. Now I'm going to elaborate on that answer. Pretty litter, it obliterates odors, so you can enjoy all the wonderful scents of your aforementioned beloved spring.
And this is just every once in a while when you're on a podcast or you're showbiz, you just get to say sentences that just really stay with you. Just you've never said them before, and you know that if not for the weird twists and turns of your life, you wouldn't get to say sentences like this. Pretty litter's non-clumping formula traps odor and moisture. Those words together, I don't know when I would say those otherwise, so I'm really grateful I get to say that. It's ultra absorbent, it's lightweight, low dust, and 1 6-pound bag works for up to a month.
I'm going to also just say the phrase non-clumping because I'm jealous I didn't get to say it, even though it's not in my part of the ad copy. It does. It feels like my whole life led to now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like led to me being able to say that.
Yeah.
Pretty litter gives you peace of mind. It changes color. This actually is unbelievable to me. It changes color to indicate early signs of potential illnesses in my cat, like urinary tract infections, kidney issues, and more. I'm a hypochondriac. If they made this for humans and your toilet changed color and went, oh, I guess I better go to the doctor, I would do it.
Yeah. It's like a combination of like a mood ring and a COVID test all in one. Since Pretty Litter ships free right to your door, you'll never run out and you won't have huge kitty litter bags taking up space. That's nice.
That is nice. Pretty Litter helps keep your house smelling fresh and clean. Try it and you'll love it. Go to prettylitter.com/HWMYM, the acronym for our very podcast, to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. Free cat toy, bro. That's prettylitter.com/whimyum. To save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy, I'm going to say it even again because I'm so excited about it. prettylitter.com/whimyum, HWMYM. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. Non-clumping, non-clumping, non-clumping. End of commercials. Back to show.
This is what I was going to say. Well, and then I have to talk to Josh about something.
But you'll be able to listen.
But you'll be recording and everyone will hear it. So one thing that I think was really beneficial is we weren't like a crazy hit show. You know, when we were on the air.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people about this who are fans now who have watched the series like 7 times and are like, it's such a huge show. And I was like, but when we were doing it,
it wasn't.
We were like, are we getting picked up for next season? Like, and it was really like we were right on the bubble. And that obviously brought in some anxiety and some stress. But it also was wonderful because we were kind of allowed to do what we wanted to do. And for us personally, like I didn't feel like my life changed. You know, I feel like if you're the cast of Friends or something, it was like, everyone knows who you are and you're in the middle of production and everyone's anticipating episodes. Like I'm sure that would be a lot of pressure to work under and to create under. So I also feel so grateful to that, where it wasn't until like season 7 or 8 or 9, certainly building up to this finale, people were writing about us and we were, having to do more press and people were coming up and saying, hi, I love your show and I can't wait for the episode. And it wasn't in our world. I remember I have a story that came to my mind, and then sorry, Josh, I'm going to talk about something with you too. But when we were in, I think, our last season, and my husband Taryn was doing SNL in New York, and our apartment was 2 blocks from McLaren's in New York. It was on like 50
in Midtown, in 50s, in the 50s.
And, I would fly out whenever I could and, see my husband. And it was wild during that time because I'd be walking down this, going to get a coffee or something. It's my neighborhood. And people would be like, coming from the bar, and they'd be like, "Look!" They would have a total freak out because it's just me walking on the street. And they're like, "It's all real," and it's mostly people from out of the country, right? And they would just absolutely freak out. And it was, I went, oh, this is like, there is like a tourist attraction happening over here. Yeah.
That happened to me when I would walk by the Empire State Building. No, I'm kidding. Jordana, my wife, pointed out a pretty great geographic loophole that there's no way a Brooklyn resident would be hanging out in a bar on the Upper West Side or on the Upper West Side that much. Like, no way. But we solved it, right? Didn't we say, Craig, that her studio was in the West 60s?
Her studio's in the West 60s. A lot of TV news is in the West 60s or thereabouts. We decided that was the way we did. We decided to sort of retcon, fix it now in 2025 and explain it. We don't think we ever said that in the show, but that works. Let's just go with it.
Oh, it would be brutal. No, she'd just have to sleep in the bar. I mean, she would have to. She's up at 3:30. I did want to say one thing, and then Cobie, you and I can have a private conversation. But I totally agree with you that the first couple seasons, I think we went on Netflix. Was it season 4, Craig?
I think 4 or 5. I forget. It maybe between some of there.
Yeah. That I remember tipped things into us getting a bigger, real-time audience. But I do think that there was something very special about those first early seasons where we were just we felt like an indie band, or we knew we had a crowd. We knew we could sell out like a 500 seat venue, but we were not playing stadiums. The difference between those early seasons and 9th season Comic-Con, which was kind of an insane moment. I remember of feeling how big the show had gotten, but I think it really allowed us to make this really weird singular show and let us. Comedies really need, one thing I'm noticing as I'm watching, the heart was always there and the characters were always there, but the show keeps getting funnier and funnier because you figure out how to comedify each character in a different way. So I feel like we were allowed in the midst of this big Hollywood production, like we were allowed to grow. And we were also, it allowed us to not become jerks because we didn't have to, we weren't super well defended. We were just like, we had a really great job in Hollywood and it was a kick. It was fun. But again, it was like, there was no, it was a season to season proposition at the beginning.
And we were all the same. I was going to say this before. We were all the same age, basically. Like Cobie was like the baby by like a few years. We're all in our 20s and into our early 30s. And we're all kind of the same age. None of us were old sitcom hacks, right? None of us had all our years on all these. Carter and I had never run a TV show. We never even really been on staff on like a proper like multi-camera sitcom situation. You were totally new to it, Cobie, and Josh, same for you. You had done comedy, but you hadn't been on a show like this. I think it mattered. I think it made it a weird little indie band. Nobody came in quite knowing how to do the job, so we figured out how to do it for ourselves. You figured out who Robin was. We figured out how to write for you as Robin. And we all got so comfortable together creating those characters together, and to watch how comfortable you got with comedy and how much we knew how to write for your voice. And you too, Josh, like what a gift to have the time and space to do that. What a gift. It doesn't happen now as often in the or in the same way. It doesn't. We really got lucky.
You know, we speaking personally, it was so wonderful to have, you know, Allie on the show, to have Josh, to have Neil, to have Jason, who are all like have such uniquely different comedic voices. And I remember there's a few times being like, how do I land this show? Am I doing this right? And it was just such a wonderfully supportive group.
One thing, Cobie, we were laughing about with Courtney, which you probably heard us singing your praises.
Hang
but
on, I didn't absorb it. I hear my name and I black out. It happens all the time.
There was something so funny immediately about your owning of the newscaster voice. Like you were able to really what went into that? Like, did you look at local news people and kind of try to mimic that weird cadence?
God. I'm sure I did. I think it was just the energy of trying to be serious, you know, like, and I don't know vocally.
It's so aspirational. Yeah. So you're going to be Barbara Walters any day now, like just so on an upward trajectory.
Particular cadence.
And all of it's important, almost,
Everything is important when the camera is rolling for Robin Scherbatsky, because she's chasing that. I don't remember if I'd like to think I did some research. I probably did, but I don't remember like choosing anyone specifically to mimic. I think that was sort of during like certainly those first couple segments were more about like don't mess up your lines and have it like as well. So I never wanted to take up time. I still don't, but I never want to like just to soak too much time out of our day. And so it was more about like just getting it, just doing my good work. But I feel like didn't she become very successful, Craig? Didn't she do it? Robin?
She becomes the Barbara Walters of her time, I think.
Yeah, she's big time.
And beyond the end of the series. Yeah, we try not to do too many spoilers episode, but yes, Robin succeeds.
You know, she started by falling off a horse and cart, and look at that shining star, that shooting star.
Because I find you to be such a natural at physical comedy too. And think about more and more we gave you that stuff. You had to dance as Robin Sparkles. You had to fall off into horse poop. We just gave you more and more physical stuff. And you're really such a natural physical comedian. Did you know that side of yourself? Is that soccer training coming out? Like, where did that come from?
You know, I mean, I did a lot of theater. I did a lot of like, you know, again, I was 22, so I wasn't able to do much before you found me. But I do remember doing high school theater, and because I couldn't really sing, which we'll get into maybe.
Yes, you can. I mean, enough of that. We've been having this argument for 20 years. Yes, you can sing.
You give me a whiskey in the recording studio, and you move
gave you a whiskey.
You move a couple of, like,
let's go to the mall.
Just the pitch here. It's a little pitchy here. Let's bring that down.
We gave you a green apple, which gets the voice and shape, apparently, which I didn't know, and a bunch of whiskey. It was 8 in the morning, and then you sang, let's go to the mall.
Cobie, all pop pop stars get pitch correction. All pop stars.
Well,
Oh my God.
it's
So sorry, where were you going about they couldn't sing? Because you can.
okay.
But
Yeah.
move on.
So just in I'm great at podcasts. I jump around all the time. I'm so sorry. I'm just
No, we're ruining it.
ping-ponging.
We're
I'm just a
interrupting
ping ponger. So I, when I was in high school, we did a lot of musicals because I feel like that's everybody gets a role. You cut up like the lead role into 4 different characters, and they would always be like, we would audition and they'd be like, okay, why don't you just dance in the back? Shit about bop, whoa, like kind of that. It's kind of moves. And so I just had to make my mark, I guess, at some point as a young actor. And so she just tried to shine physically. I did dance when I was younger, not enough to be good at it, but enough to be like, a 5, 6, 7, 8 moment. But
I do remember you told me this thing that I ended up taking for Happy Thank You More Please, but that notion of walk it off. Like, didn't your soccer teammates, like when something emotional would happen, like someone got broken up with and you'd say walk it off?
Yeah, we'd say it for physical and emotional things. It works in both worlds. Which is like, if you get taken out on the pitch, if you can walk it off, you're going to be fine and the injury will be better. And then, walk it off. If someone breaks your heart, just walk it off and just keep moving. Yeah, just walk it off.
It's actually not terrible. It's good advice. It's good life advice. Walk it off. Yeah.
You could have a best-selling self-help book.
Yeah, I find myself saying it to my kids maybe too often. Just walk it off. Walk it off. Go. Walk it off.
What was your private moment with Josh that we can eavesdrop on? I feel like we also got away from that.
Okay. So one of the fun things I like to do with Josh is there was a lot of sort of, Josh and I had quite a few intimate scenes. And so you try to, as much as humanly possible, before sort of, we would roll, I would try to whisper something to Josh that was just extremely inappropriate. And sometimes we have something in acting called the moment before, which is typically used in an audition to get you sort of, you have to land as soon as they hit roll. Yeah. There's been a whole life. So you have to create this moment before. So I felt as a good scene partner, I should lay out what the we just did was. And typically it was what we just did. And usually it was sexual.
Because there were a lot of post-coital scenes.
There's a lot of like, we just woke up or whatever, you were in bed, And so just because I'm a giving actor, I feel like I'm an amazing scene partner and I'm just thinking about the other person and making sure that they're comfortable, making sure that there's a connection there. And so I would just sort of set us up before we actually started the scene and our speaking roles, just with like, this is what just transpired between us. And usually Josh would not be able to say anything, and his face would turn that color for those who are watching.
Josh is turning beet red for those listening at home.
If you're listening, his face is red. If you're watching, just look at his screen.
Just look at his fucking face.
Well,
it's right there to see.
Favorite things.
Can we get an example? Can we get like a appropriately worded example?
No, you cannot.
I know. I think it would. No, you absolutely.
We can't get a sanitized example.
Just think of the worst possible thing, and that's really what it was.
Listen, sometimes Neil would do this thing to me, like where he'd have to whisper something.
Yes.
And Neil is disgusting. Like Neil has a real ability to be gross and work blue. He is nothing compared to the depravity that Cobie Smulders laid out.
I never knew this the moment before. This is for the first time hearing of this.
Craig, it was, and also she would time it in such a way that she would finish saying, she would stick the landing and Pam would say, action, and I would just, I couldn't speak. I mean, they're fond memories, but I also was immobilized by Cobie's visionary. I mean, she would. You could monetize this in some way, Cobie. Like if acting stops, you know what I'm saying? Like,
cool.
I think you could write.
Oh my God.
Like just the filthiest romance novels.
I think there's a 2-part self-help book. Yeah, you write the self-help book is Walk It Off, and then there's a filth book that follows that up.
I'm telling you, you have a real talent for spinning the dirtiest webs of narrative that I've ever. It was always shocking to me. Delightful in its own way.
Were these like elaborately detailed, like romantic, like a romance novel type of like here's the steps that led up to this moment?
We just let you know, but this is between Josh and I. Do you know what I mean? Like this is a moment in time, and only Josh and I know exactly what was said and the context of what was said and how it was delivered. But now you know what was
your imagination is free to wander.
See us waking up in bed at any time, or
I had no idea.
That's what
we're sitting over there, 50 feet over there, in Video Village, having no idea what was going on. You said it so quietly we couldn't hear it in here. This is the best. We're breaking news here for How I Met Your Mother fans. We are breaking news headlines.
This is the stuff they want to know.
Big headlines, spinning headlines.
And I'm also incredibly breakable. Like I'm easy to break. But I think probably in some of the blooper reels, when you see me laughing, is probably in response to something. It might be.
It's
if
that.
you see us
now
in bed.
I'll know when I see this.
Yeah.
Cobie, you could lose it. You could lose it in a blooper.
It takes nothing.
Yeah.
It took nothing for me to totally lose it.
Well, it wasn't only that. Sometimes you would get the thing where you needed 12 minutes to recover. Like you couldn't pull yourself together.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. 100%. And I
that's the best though. It's such a great feeling.
It's a cycle though, right? Because it happens and then you're like, don't laugh. You're like telling yourself don't laugh. And then you enter into a phase which you're like, I'm so unprofessional. And you're sort of like self-shaming. Yeah. Like I'm the youngest one here and they all know what they're doing and I can't not laugh. And Jason would break me real quick. Like Jason would just... He would say, also Jason would always be like kind of singing around me and and I'd have to be like, oh, it's so annoying. You know, it's easy when you're like there's something that makes sense that you're laughing about.
What was the episode? I think it's in first season, but where Marshall had these pants that Lily wanted him to get rid of. And they were like big flowy pattern pants.
Oh, they were kind of like MC Hammer pants, weren't they? Like
yeah. And Jason did a dance through the living room, going
So he also broke so much, and that's when it was the hardest. Is when he was doing something that broke all of us. Yeah. And then he would be anticipating all of us breaking, and then he would laugh.
I would say Neil had the biggest poker face. Like Neil would be he was the last to break, but he would sometimes break, but he was the last.
No, if you made Neil break, you were like, oh, I guess I'm doing something very funny.
Cobie, Josh and I have talked about this though. Like you guys, like some of what you're describing went into the show. We wouldn't not use those takes. We would sometimes use those moments because you guys were unafraid of laughing at each other. And I think it's part of what created that feeling of this is an authentic friend group. I was just texting Josh this last night. I was like, there's something about we're watching the episode The Duel to talk about that one up next after you. This is our special Cobie. This is the Cobie episode. We're not talking about any specific episode. No, we wanted to just talk to you, which is the best. But I was watching that episode and I was like, God, you just buy that these people are friends. They really seem fond of each other. And I think part of it is the process kind of begat that by we didn't have an audience. You weren't putting it on for the Friends actors were putting it on for 500 people in bleachers every day, every show. We weren't. And you guys had each other and you guys making each other laugh and the crew laugh. That's what our laughs were. And we left them in the cut. And I feel like that's part of what made the show work in a weird way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think because, again, it creates this intimacy because I remember doing scenes and there were certain crew members laugh that I would listen for. Mostly in camera because they were the closest and they were obviously paying the most attention. And you would kind of hear them laugh and then you would kind of lean into that laugh. But it was when you're doing, a show like Friends and you're doing that, but it's for an audience of people, I think that energy you're putting out as an actor is bigger because you're like, oh, they really like this. But when you're just doing it for like Chris LaFontaine, it's a different, they're laughing because they know what you're doing is actually not Robin. They know like what you're doing is kind of a bit of a nod to whatever bit we were doing on set. And that kind of creates a wonderful energy.
I think that we talked about, and I remember we made this decision kind of as a group that we hated when in a comedy people were saying hilarious things and no one laughed. So we made the decision like, no, if you're trying to make your friends laugh, we should laugh. And Sue Fetterman cut in so many reaction shots of people being amused by, and I also think not having the audience, eating candy and amped up, it kept us more like small scale indie film. Like, I mean, How I Met Your Mother could get very broad, but it was also like fairly subtle acting for a sitcom,
The two of you, just while we have the two of you together, I just want to pay you another compliment to make Cobie's skin crawl. Cobie, you will, so this episode that we're doing right now will sort of be what, Alec, I think 7 or 8 Hymnium episodes in or something like that, right? We're about there. It's about not quite halfway into the season. We just watched and talked about the Slutty Pumpkin episode, Cobie. There's a scene at the end of the Slutty Pumpkin where like Robin has sort of failed to connect with this guy she's dating down in the bar while Ted is up waiting for the Slutty Pumpkin at the rooftop Halloween party. And Robin ends up kind of feeling like the guy leaves her. The guy says, I sense you're not ready to connect on this level and be in a relationship. And he leaves and sort of leaves her wondering something about herself. And she kind of has this moment where she needs a word of advice about life. And she goes, and the tables kind of turn. She kind of goes to Ted. She climbs up to this roof, and Ted's sitting there having seemed very absurd to be waiting for the Slutty Pumpkin like Linus and Charlie Brown. But he has this wisdom that she needs in that moment where she comes to Ted and she says, how do you do it, Ted? How do you sit here and have faith that this person, that love is possible, essentially, that this person's going to show up, this person who represents hope, and like, how do you do it? Is there something broken in me that I can't seem to do it? Why can't I do that? Why can't I feel those things? It's such a great scene between the two of you, and such an interesting, I think, that's 6 episodes in or something, where Robin goes from being sort of this object, we're talking about like the tantalizing object, this thing Ted is chasing, has decided she's going to be the answer to all his problems, and Robin, we figured out how to dimensionalize Robin between the pilot and 6 episodes in, enough that already we're kind of peeling back the onion a little bit and going like, what is going on underneath for Robin? Who is she really? Talk about that moment, or just a moment in general where you started to discover, like, in that episode, I just was noting Robin is being shown as a flawed dimensional human being, not the object of what Ted's chasing or projecting on her. She's her own character. I thought you played that vulnerability so well, and that was sort of the first moment that happened. Do you remember that scene, or that feeling like, here we're digging into this character a little more?
I remember that scene a little bit. To be completely honest, I haven't rewatched the show. The last time I've seen every episode.
There's a podcast that you can rewatch along with if you want to.
Where can I find it?
It's called How We Made Your Mother.
Okay, great. But I can just find it anywhere that you get podcasts. Is that right?
Anywhere you get your podcasts.
Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can just download them.
I'll send you the link.
You can subscribe probably as well.
It works like every other podcast. There's really no
like every other podcast. Like, okay, great.
Yeah, just like every other one.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that sort of push and pull of Robin at the beginning of the season because, she's coming out of thing and she wants to be single and she's in this new city and she's very career driven, and I think it's like, it's a battle between the head and the heart, she's going, obviously I want this career, and that requires me to be selfish, and that requires me to not really have emotional availability to people because I'm just, this is my goal. But I think she meets Ted, and he is just such a catch, and she's asking herself, why am I pushing this away? Why am I having a hard time being intimate? And I don't think that she has really thought about that. I mean, if we think about how she grew up, and sort of, we get into that in further seasons, the kind of father she had, and not to get too.
But we didn't know all of that at those early moments, and you still found a way to play it, and then we kind of we figured it out retroactively because of how you played it, I think.
Yeah, and I also want to just talk about Josh for a bit, which is like, Josh is so emotionally intelligent. He's obviously intelligent, but there is a depth to Josh as a human, and he is so ready to listen and just gives the most wonderful advice. And I feel like even when we first met, if we want to go back to that time specifically, she's a 22-year-old girl who's like, and it was so wonderful to be able to partner with somebody who I could talk to about life stuff and also have such a depth of knowledge about the emotional, about humans in general, about relationships. And I think that was probably what was happening in that scene at that time.
First off, Cubs, that was so lovely. Thanks. I'm so moved by that. But I also, I think I was 29 when we did the pilot. Maybe you were like 23 and I was 30 by the time we were actually doing it, or does that sound about right?
Okay.
But, it's funny because I was like older than you, but this was also new for me. Like I had never been on a big long running TV show. I had done a bunch of pilots. And, so we were both in the trenches together. And I think one of the ways I sometimes deal with my discomfort is I try to like be advicey and sage like, and, but you were, I think we were figuring this thing out together. And I have such a strong memory of seeing you for the first time, like walking down the hall when we were about to test together. And I think that, people have always remarked on our chemistry to the point where people insist that I was in love with you. And I think you know that was not true, but I did always feel like you and I had like, I don't know, like we met on the first day of basic training or something. Like I felt like we were in the military together and we went through like this life changer together, like side by side. And I, sometimes people would ask about chemistry. Did you ever discuss chemistry? And I'd be like, God, no. Like, that would be the worst thing you could ever do. Like, I just had a sense that scenes with you and I were going to be really honest and they were going to be really thoughtful and we were going to listen really well together. And I also thought, Jordana made this point about your character, especially in the first season. There's a psychological term called the tantalizing object, which is like the thing that like you really want, but it's just out of reach and you can't quite have it. And we all have that romantically. And I think one thing that I think is fascinating is you met Taran right before we started this thing and you're still with him. So you yourself were not, we didn't have these attachment theory terms when we were doing the show, but like Craig and I have talked that Ted has an anxious attachment wound and Robin has an avoidant attachment wound. But in real life, actually, we were reversed because you were like in this really serious long-term relationship that you're still in. And I was actually, as you remember from many of our offstage talks, like really confused about relationships, like how I couldn't stay in them. I didn't know how long, if I wanted to be in them, if I wanted to ever get married. I've worked through all that. But I find it fascinating that we were both navigating like love and romance at that time in our lives, but from totally different perspectives than our characters. But I don't know, there was just something about, when people ask like if we're friends, like with the cast, mm-hmm. I say, sure, but it's actually family is a better analogy because you don't get to choose your family. You're just thrown together and you have to kind of make this ecosystem work. And, set was different when you and I had a one-on-one scene than it was 5 of us at the bar or you and Neil together or me and Jason and Allie. Like there were so many different configurations that changed the energy of what the day was going to be like. But I do, in some ways, like if it's the Wizard of Oz, like you were the Scarecrow for me, like you were like the first person I met on the journey. And I just like, I love you very much. And I just want to say that.
Same, buddy.
Oh, you guys, I love you both. What a gift. How lucky were / are we? I mean,
so lucky. We were so lucky. Like it's the best. It was such an amazing time. And just I miss it. Like I don't really miss people go like, what do you miss most of the show? And I was like, the people, like being able to just go in and I think you've touched upon this in your podcast already, which is like life happened. Like people got married, people met their partners, people divorced their partners. We had people pass away, it was like,
And we all went through some shit. We all went through some journeys and some shit. Yeah, we really did.
And so
that made it in there too.
It was like a lifetime. And when I even say like and people ask like, how many seasons did you do? I was like, we did 9 seasons. We did 9 years. Like,
call it a decade of our life.
Yeah.
Call it a decade. And we were all living
The
life.
other thing, though, I think something to think about is like everyone sees 22 to 24 minutes of that week that we spent together. But how many hours were we together? Like, most of our life was happening not on screen, like even on set life. And people think like, oh no, it's the 5 of you. And we try to remind people on the podcast, no, it was 75 of us. You know, there were so many people around and so many people you get like really close to. Like Jen Turchi didn't even do my makeup, but I'm still like, we're still in touch, you know, like I just adore her and I gave a toast at her wedding, you know, like you really get woven into people's lives in a way that is not, the public's never going to get how intimate and how sweet a well-functioning set can be.
But they do. I think they don't know it, but they feel it in the show.
Because it shows up on screen.
That made it into this show. I don't know that it's not like that on every creative endeavor, but this one, it just filtered in. I just had this sense memory of this feeling of walking down to set as I'm looking at the two of you, loving you and missing you guys both. And like, just this feeling of missing working with you. I mean, walking down to set, knowing I was going to get to shoot, let's say that scene in the Slutty Pumpkin, the two of you up on the roof. Or that scene at the end of episode 2, the Purple Giraffe, where Robin sort of is saying, essentially, Cobie, what we started this podcast with, which is, can I be part of your group? She's saying, I know I'm not saying I'm going to date you, but it's too bad because I don't have friends here. And there's this wonderful moment where Ted says, come down with us to the bar tonight. You know, it was like he said, maybe in a couple months we'll talk. And she's like, and Robin's heartbroken for a second. She knows it's not going to happen. And then he says, or tonight, come down, drink with us tonight. It's this lovely moment where she's invited into the group, and it felt like you being invited into the show. And just like knowing I got to go shoot scenes with the two of you, I mean, what a gift as a writer. I know Carter very much felt the same way. It's just like, I get to go shoot a scene with these two today on that roof. It's going to be fucking great. And it's just it's the best writing gets. It's the best making something gets, is that feeling. So thank you guys. What a gift.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, we love you. We all, Carter and I, we're just the luckiest writers and all of the writers in the world to have written for you guys.
Cobie, we adore you. We talk about you every week. Will you come back soon? We'll get an episode, a juicy Robin episode.
I know I got to come back for the Robin Sparkles one. I mean, we're going to have a lot. We didn't even really touch upon that. And
you know who wants you back for that one? This guy right here.
We got to be reunited. Yeah, I mean, and
he's going to talk some shit about you. He says your on-set behavior was atrocious.
Can I be honest? You know, he's standing right there, but he was really difficult to work with.
He was telling us what you were whispering in his ear right before each scene, and it was not okay.
Worst guest star I think we had on the show, to be honest.
No, that was no.
No, don't say it.
No, and honestly, thank you guys. Thank you guys for starting this podcast, because it's so nice to jump into a time in my life where it was so fun and worked with such amazing people and just revisiting all these memories, you know, of times gone by. It's a wonderful journey. So thank you.
Yeah, I actually texted Alec and Craig because I had this revelation that like we're kind of doing an oral history of How I Met Your Mother. Mm-hmm. Like we're going back and we're unearthing these memories and these revelations that we've had. I mean, one of the things is like the show is a lot about time and change. Mm-hmm. And when we made the show, we were one way. First season, when we ended the show, we were different. Our lives looked different. Everything looked different. And now, 11 years on from the ending of the show, 20 years on from when we started, things also look a lot different. It's an astonishing thing to grow with a piece of art and have it change as we change. And that's what we're doing here. And this show is not anything. I mean, it's unimaginable without you. So we want to have you back. We want to keep talking about it, and we both love you we love you very dearly.
We'll do an episode next time, but we needed to just talk to you this time. We just wanted you all to ourselves. So thank you for next time we'll talk about an episode.
Thank you, and thank you, Alec, and thank you, Josh, and thank you, Craig, for having me. It's a pleasure to see you, and let's do it again.
Well, we've concluded that Cobie Smulders remains as delightful as ever. There's no dim to her wattage over the years.
There's no dim. There's no dim. There's no dimmer.
No.
It's all brightness.
Yeah.
And joy. She's the best. The best of the best.
What a sweet time that was to be with her. And she'll be back on. So thank you, Cobie, for joining us. And
thank you, Cobie.
Craig, we've all had other projects since How I Met Your Mother.
We have. What have
you been working on lately?
Here's the organic thing I'm going to work into this conversation that we call a C block to end our episode. Hey everyone, if you like Josh and Cobie together, you'll have another opportunity besides Hymnium and this podcast to see that. Hear that is what I should say. I wrote a book. I haven't talked about it yet on the podcast. I wrote my debut novel. It's coming out through HarperCollins, Hanover Square Press on November 4th of this year. It's called That's Not How It Happened. And it is told from multiple points of view, 4 different points of view of a family, 2 parents and 2 kids that are like a teenager and a young adult with Down syndrome in his 20s, like 24. And there are these 4 wonderful characters. And for the audiobook, we're going to cast 4 actors to read the 4 parts. And 2 of those actors, the parent roles, who are named Rob and Paige, will be played by none other in the audiobook by Josh Radnor and Cobie Smulders. So there's like How I Met Your Mother.
I thought I was playing the teenager, but it's fine. I feel I can do the father
and the looks.
I still think I can still play.
Get the beard off.
You take his beard off. You take his beard off. You knock the gray out of the temples.
I think you definitely
give me a Jansport. I am ready to go.
A Jansport, a Trapper Keeper. You're a teenager in the 1980s, though. All of a sudden, it's a period piece. The book's not actually.
Yeah.
No, this book means the world to me. It is my favorite thing I've ever written besides How I Met Your Mother. And Josh and Cobie have agreed to sort of do a mini How I Met Your Mother reunion in the audiobook of my book. It's called That's Not How It Happened. It comes out November 4th. You can pre-order it now. You can pre-order the audiobook or the book. And I would love it. It'd mean the world to me if people listening to this podcast would check it out.
And pre-orders are very important in the literary world. So if you can smash that pre-order button.
This is our most organic 2 minutes of the podcast so far. Yes, Josh, that's true. Pre-orders are important.
Go back to your announcer voice, that totally natural announcer voice you were doing earlier.
Yeah, I was really nailing that. No, it's important. Pre-ordering it helps boost the book's visibility wherever you buy books, Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble. It just lifts the book and gets it in front of more eyeballs if people pre-order it. So it would mean a lot to me. I think How I Met Your Mother fans will really like this book. It jumps around. It's playful in its storytelling and its switching of perspectives in a way that I think How I Met Your Mother fans will like.
And it's got how in the title. The word
it's
how.
It's got how in the title. I didn't really mean to do that, but everything I read has how in the title. And yeah, it means the world to me. It's inspired by my son. There's an element in the book that is about being a family that has a child that has a disability, in this case, Down syndrome. That's not exactly what my son has. My son has something different called Jacobson syndrome. There's some overlaps in those experiences. And so I just wrote this book, inspired by parts of my life, but it's also this work of fiction. And it's been the last couple of years of my life. And I am so thrilled that it's getting out into the world in a few short months. So anyway, I wanted to mention it.
I'm so thrilled for you. And I'm so happy that Cobie and I can help you
I love you guys for doing it
into the world. Hey, I have a question. How much did you pull from your own kind of experience or with Elliot or how much research did you do into Down syndrome?
I pulled a lot from my experience with Elliot, but also Elliot has grown up in this wonderful inclusion school since kindergarten that was founded by 4 moms of kids with Down syndrome. And these moms felt like there wasn't a just right school for their kids. There wasn't a school that kind of saw and elevated and saw what their kids were capable of. And they had bad experiences in trying to find that. And they said, and this inspired me so much, and this is kind of in the book, they said, let's create a space and a world for our kids. And one of the characters in my book, the mother in the book, Paige, she does that. She sort of creates an endeavor that can be a place, not a school, but it's a place where her young adult son with Down syndrome can work. It's this coffee shop, which is also based on some amazing people I know in the Berkshires. I'm going to give them a shout out that do this. They created this coffee shop for their child with a disability, their young adult with a disability. And they created a coffee shop called Extra Special Teas that has 2 locations in the Berkshires, and just getting to know them a little bit and seeing what they did with that. kind of informed one of the characters' journey is the mother who literally does that essentially in my book. So yeah, Elliot, my son, the experience of raising him is in the book, but just the osmosis of all of these amazing people. When you have a child with a disability, at first you feel so alone and you feel so overwhelmed. You don't know how you can possibly do it. And then you realize one of the answers to that question, how can you possibly get through this and do this and know how to do it, is you just get to absorb all of this amazing wisdom and positivity and creativity from all of these other people you meet within the disability community. So I tried to put all of that in the book, the parts that are about Elliot and the parts that are just me being inspired by other people. And there's also an element of Hollywood in the book. There's sort of, the plot of the book is that there's a movie being made about the life story of this family. So I have fun with sort of the Hollywood part of my life, and I have fun with sort of like the disability parenthood part of my life. And I sort of brought these two huge worlds that have been essentially my entire adult life and put them together in this book. And it's a comedy, but I hope it's poignant. And
you know what reminds
anyway,
you of?
I'll stop selling it now.
What was the Simpsons where the production came to town? And the end
Right.
is they say, like, we're just simple folk from Hollywood, and these small town grifters took us for all we're worth, or something.
Yes.
We just wanted to tell a story, a pure story.
Yeah.
I love that about the school. It reminds me of something they say in 12 Step that someone told me, that if you're not hearing at a meeting what you need to hear, you have to be the one to share it.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just kind of like, if it doesn't exist and you need it in the world, like make it. Like that's almost the thing. Like there's that quote, is it a Howard Thurman quote where he says, find out where your deep hunger and where your deep joy and the world's deep hunger meet.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Like this sounds like a
absolutely.
book that you would have loved to have read when Elliot was young.
This is a book I would have loved to have read
Right.
the day after my son got his diagnosis of having a rare genetic syndrome. But I also hope that it's a book that will speak to every family anywhere. It's really a comedic novel about a family, and there happens to be this disability piece in it too.
Right.
And there happens to be this piece that there's a movie being made about them. But essentially, the book will only have been a success if it speaks to every family and every person everywhere. So I hope that's what it does.
It's a tall order, but
that was my goal.
Yeah.
I'm sure the internet will tell me all the places.
Can
that
we
I
also
didn't
plug
hit it.
that we're supporting research from Dr. Paul Grossfield?
Yeah. Dr. Paul Grossfeld. He is the doctor who specializes in my son's condition, Jacobson syndrome, but he works to help all kids with congenital heart issues, and sort of has a subspecialty in my son's sort of branch of having congenital heart issues and other things with this rare syndrome. But he's a pediatric cardiologist, and we're raising money to support his lab and his research on the podcast. You can go to our website. You can go to Alec, tell me the name of it again.
You can go to How We Made Your Mother, and then on the top, if you click on Make a Difference, you'll find the link there.
You click, okay, I just want to make sure I said the words right. Click on Make a Difference, and that's a way to support that work.
So listeners, you have your homework. Pre-order Craig's book.
Pre-order a book.
That's not how it happened?
That's not how it happened.
That's not how it happened by Craig Thomas. And also, if you're feeling generous, please go to howwemadeyourmother.com. Make a difference and donate to Dr. Grossfeld's work. He is a real hero and has been to Craig's family and so many others. Thank you for listening. Tell your friends. Join us next week. We're thrilled to be making our way through this show with you. And thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven. In New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radner and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alec Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios, and our digital content producer, aka Gen Z Master, is Emily Blumberg. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radner, with additional music by Craig Thomas and Andrew Majewski. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Want some merch? Click on the store link or go to howyougetyourmerch.com. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Order Craig Thomas's debut novel at craigthomaswriter.com/novel. And you could subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you, or just New York City?